Hi, I'm John Mallos. Welcome to this live edition of Connect with Me on the showroom floor at Ventura TV on this Friday morning. Glad you're here. Today we're talking about water. Hey, it's one of our favorite topics. How many times have we talked about water on this program the last 5 years? A lot. Man, enough water to fill up this whole Ventura TV building. 436-ME-TV option 11. Back with your phone calls and our guest today. He is an expert. Back in a moment.
Tonight I want to discuss the importance of the television medium to the American people.
Back here on the program, it's a Friday morning. I almost said Monday morning. Boy, let's not rush the deal, okay? We still have the weekend ahead of us. Anyway, it's a Friday morning on Connect with Me on Me TV Fresno. A lot to get to today. We're talking about water and what is going to happen with all that runoff. Or will there be that much? Are we anticipating something for no reason at all? I don't know. It was a lot of rain this past year. As you know, we've talked about the rain and the floods so many times on this program. Even in the last 5 months we've touched on it. So you're welcome to call in. We have an open phone line, and just remember, we'll be talking about the creeks and the rivers and this and that. So dangerous situation it can be during this time of year. So a quick programming note from Monday. Mike Briggs of centralvalley.com is going to be here. He'll talk a little bit about local politics, and you know, Mike has been here before, so we'll touch on some of the issues that are surrounding City Hall right now. Mainly, I want to know if there's a rift on the City Council. There's a big divide. Is there a big divide? I don't know. Our friend George Hofstadter seems to think so. And then, what's happening at the White House? Do you see the front cover of Time magazine? The White House, half it's half Russian, half American. It's really an amazing story, the meltdown that's going on at the White House. The Kremlin and the White House colluding? I don't know. We'll find out from our guy Dennis Hart, who's been on this program some 65 times now, and our guest here is his second appearance, so he has a ways to go to catch up with Dennis Hart. Anyway, you're watching us live on Comcast to channel 375 as usual. It is Comcast cable. If it's not Comcast, it's 43.6, 13.1 over the air, Monday through Friday, 10 to 11 o'clock in the morning. It's a live call-in program. We have an open line if you want to call in now. So the replay comes up later in the day, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 13.6 YouTube, 8 o'clock tonight, 4.6 Biz TV. After that, you can catch us on YouTube. Well, the heat is on this weekend and into next week, and I'll tell you what, it's beginning to feel a lot like summer. That's right. That means the runoff, it could be fast and furious. We're not sure yet. We'll ask our guest today. He's an expert in the field. Let's roll the videotape, show you what I'm talking about today in terms of water. Boy, look at that. To say that California has seen record snowfall this season is a major understatement. Look at that snow in the mountains. In fact, it's one of the deepest snowpacks in state history, and now poses a potential flood risk. The snow is key to our water needs, no doubt. What you're looking at is layers of snow accumulated over a period of several months, and this year's snow is especially dense and full of water. You know, about 80% of California's water comes in the form of snow. The final water survey offered up a couple of weeks back, and the snowpack was 42.5 inches, about 190% of normal. After 4 years of drought, all the rain and the snow is a welcome sight. But there is a downside. State officials are now worried and prepping for all that potential runoff and how it might cause a failure. Might cause a failure at Oroville Dam. Let's hope not. Here in the Central Valley, we have the San Luis Reservoir to be concerned with, 90% capacity, and of course Millerton Lake and Friant Dam.
Well, it's a lot of water.
It's a lot of water.
Now, in the simple version, where does this water come from? I guess it starts here, goes down the San Joaquin River, and then what happens to it?
It goes down to a series of bypasses which bypass the San Joaquin River. There's flooding at Mendota Pool, and the potential for flooding and around the town of Mendota. So we send it down some bypasses to the delta, to the Sacramento-San Joaquin River Delta. We like it when it rains for it to be nice and cold, so it falls as snow, and that's our main form of storage, and then that stores the water. And then as that melts, it flows into our reservoir and other reservoirs upstream, and then we want it to melt at just the rate that we can store it and send it south and north for beneficial use.
And in the dry years, how low have we seen Millerton Lake go?
We've seen it come real close to 150,000 acre feet in storage, which is just enough for us to be able to make diversions to the Bryant Kern Canal. When it rains, we get more water upstream, the reservoirs upstream fill, and we get into a condition where we're concerned about downstream flooding. So what we want to do is regulate the flow so that we don't flood people out that are downstream.
Right now, Millerton Lake is at about 70% capacity. Stroup says this is higher than normal.
This time of year, we usually keep it down closer to 350,000 acre feet because we want to leave room in case there's another storm that comes in unexpected. Like right after Christmas, when we had that series of storms that came in, we had several 100,000 acre feet of storage that was available that we could fill up and attenuate the flows so that we didn't cause downstream flooding.
From the delta, the water goes into the ocean. Stroup says more storage could help.
As long as the storage was on the San Joaquin River, yes. If there was more storage, we could store more water and less water would flow to the ocean.
The water at the dam is also split off into the Bryant Kern Canal and the Madera Canal.
And we send it down the two canals, north and south of the river, and we use it mainly for agriculture and a little bit for municipal and industrial uses, like the city of Fresno.
Right, as I say, this is where the city of Fresno gets its water.
This is one of the sources that the city of Fresno has for water. For surface water, it's their main source. Most of the city of Fresno's water comes from groundwater.
Live in our studio is Duane Stroup from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. He has been here before. It's his second appearance here talking about some of the water problems here in the Central Valley with all the rain and all the snow. He'll talk about the potential dangerous runoff. I don't know if there will be. He is an expert, of course, in the field. U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. In that previous videotape, you saw Duane being interviewed by our friend David Taub of GVWire.com. That's right, and David has been a guest here before. He'll be here again. So your phone calls essential to the program. 436-ME-TV, option 11. We're back with you and your phone calls and our guest in just a moment.
The new Frigidaire Professional line at Ventura TV Video Appliance. Enjoy generous-sized cooktops and sauté or simmer with ease, while true convection ovens offer even baking and juicy roasting perfection. Foods stay their freshest in spacious refrigerators with convenient controls and clear filtered ice and water. Easy to clean surfaces reduce fingerprints, and the quietest of dishwashers makes cleanup a snap. The new Frigidaire Professional line at Ventura TV Video Appliance.
The following is another list of things you will not hear on MeTV programs. Man cave, baby bump, whatevs, double half-calf mochaccino, full hog, redonkulous, totes adorbs, hella, holla, YOLO, cray-cray, and MeTV is still Kardashian-free. This is what you will hear on MeTV programs.
Welcome, Dana. The Twilight Zone. About wolves.
I object, Your Honor.
Mr. Grant.
I hear you right. You heard me right.
MeTV. Thanks for listening.
Back here on the program, 436-ME-TV, option 11 if you want to call in and weigh in on this program. And I'm glad you're here this morning. Duane Stroup is here from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. So good morning, Duane. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing really well today. Thank you for having me on the show.
Hey, good to be here, and it's good to have you here. So let's talk a little bit about the runoff. And then before we do that, I want to roll a piece of videotape just right off the bat here. And I do want to talk about the San Joaquin River. It's called, the videotape is called the San Joaquin River. Let's roll that now, and you'll see what I'm talking about. There is a lot of water out there, and it is running high. It is running deep. It is quite dangerous if you jump in, especially at this time. That's the San Joaquin River right there. And tell us some of the dangers of this fast-moving water. Of course, this was taken a little while back, but that water is still very high.
The dangers, you're 100% correct on the dangers. The water coming out of the mountains east of here, out of the Sierra Mountains, it's cold. It's just barely above freezing, probably about 42 degrees. So
it's that cold?
It's that cold.
42 degrees?
And it's moving fast. It's moving really, really fast. So you go in there, your body's going to, shock and gasp, and your muscles are going to get stiff real fast, and you're just not going to have a chance. It's going to be bad. Avoid the water. Be very, very careful. Be careful with your pets. Be careful with your children. The water, I cannot overemphasize how dangerous the water can be that's coming out of like a Millerton Reservoir.
Yeah, so it's not only the cold, it's the speed of which it's traveling downstream, right?
Right. Right now we're releasing just under 3,000 CFS, right around 2,800 CFS out of the dam, and that I have no idea how fast it's moving, but it looks deceptive. It looks calm because it's just overpowering some of the obstacles in the river. But it's moving fast. It's cold, fast-moving water, and it's not going to you're not going to have the opportunity to get out of it.
How about some of the debris that people will encounter while in that water as it is moving downstream?
It's if you ever, I like to kayak down the San Joaquin River on a normal year, when it's around 500 CFS. And a lot of the areas that you'll go past, if you ever go out to the Fort Washington Bar area, out in those areas, a lot of the areas, the willows and the tamarack and all that stuff, that is now underwater. But how far underwater, you don't know. And
so you could get tangled up in all of that? You
could get tangled up in it. There's trees. Trees will be shifting, moving. I know that last year there were a couple trees that fell down right now around the park, Woodward Park, right around Woodward Park. And, they changed the channel flows. And if you get pressed up against one of those, you can't get away. There was a world-class experienced kayaker in the Sacramento River a couple years ago that got caught up against a bridge pier and couldn't get off, and didn't go well.
He died, huh?
She died.
She died.
Yeah.
She just got swept up in the current.
Swept up in the current, pressed up against a pier, and the weight of the water, the pressure of the water, she couldn't get out.
She was pinned.
She was pinned.
Okay, and so even somebody who's a world-class athlete, a world-class kayaker, a world-class boater, someone who's very experienced on the water, it's the current that takes you. It's like a whirlpool. It just isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's not a whirlpool. It's just a massive amount of force. Water weighs 8 pounds per gallon approximately.
Okay.
And you just start moving 8 pound per gallon, and that's about a cubic foot. So, and that gets pressing up against your body, 5, 10, 20 feet per second. And it just pushes against you. And, you take the area of your body, and it's a lot of force. And, very few people would have the strength to overcome that much force.
And it's a lot of weight against your body.
A lot of weight.
And a lot of strength that you need to fight that off. And sometimes if that water is too cold, your body freezes. You don't have the strength to fight it off. Is that how it works?
Well, your muscles get stiff, when you're really cold. We've all woke up in the morning and, got out of bed on a cold morning, and you're not moving as fast as you do on a warm morning. And just imagine that at 42 degrees.
Yeah. People still don't listen, though, even at the height of the runoff season. People still get in the creeks, they get in the canals.
Yeah.
They go downstream. So right now you're releasing. Okay, let's take a look at let's roll a videotape. It's called Releases. You talked about you mentioned the releases out of Friant Dam and Millerton Lake. Let's look at the videotape at some of the releases. And you said it was about 3,000 to 4,000 CSF right now?
Yes, it is right around just under 3,000 CFS. Right now, we're just trying to match what's flowing into the reservoir. So what's flowing in plus what's going down the river and out the canals, we're trying to just keep the reservoir right around 340,000 acre feet of storage.
Okay, so when is the ideal time to go boating, to go kayaking, to go swimming maybe? Not when these types of releases are being made, right? So when's the ideal time?
The ideal time is this summer. We should, in by the August, we'll be into the San Joaquin River restoration flows, which are around 400 CFS, maybe 500 CFS, and that's a really good time. The water's still cool. Millerton's a cold reservoir. Hard to believe that water's 42 degrees when it's 110 degrees outside, but it's true. And
it is.
So when it's down lower, not at these levels are just dangerous.
Yeah, they're very dangerous indeed. And there's a drone shot. You can see there the water. And you said that Millerton is about, what, 70% capacity right now?
I don't know the percentage. It's 340, just right around 340, and it holds 520. So it has about 180,000 acre feet of storage capacity available. So 180,000 acre feet of water that we can store.
Tell us the difficulty in calculating how much water is coming in and how much you should let out. Of course, there are a lot of people that say, and I'm sure you're probably in favor of more storage. If we had more storage, you wouldn't have to flood that water downstream into the San Joaquin and then boom, out the delta or out into the Pacific Ocean.
Yes, if we had more storage, it would we could hold more water, and it would help with flooding in a year like this. Whether it would help with water supply, that all depends on how the water is used and how it's released, but
how it's allocated. Right.
But definitely, if we had more storage, it would lessen flooding in years like this. As you know, Kings River and San Joaquin River are really similar. The hydrology, the amount of snow they get. But Pine Flats Reservoir is 1 million acre feet. We're at 500,000 acre feet.
Yeah, San Luis is a lot bigger.
San Luis is just over 2 million, 2,041,000 acre feet.
Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about San Luis as well. We've talked to our expert, our fishing guide expert, Roger George, many times about San Luis. He's a guide out there and out at Millerton. So what about the calculations? That snow melt, I mean, is it all done by computer? How does one do that? How do you figure out in the future, in the next month, how much water is going to be snow is going to be melting, turned to water, and then how much you should let out?
We rely on DWR.
What's that?
Department of Water Resources. The Department of Water Resources calculates runoff. Their Bulletin 120, which just came up. Last one came out in 1st of May, and they don't do anymore. But it forecasts runoff by month. And, so they'll have and they have a percent of average. And they base that upon both surveys and measurements of snowpack and whatnot. And then we also use the National Weather Service forecast of runoff.
So it's all done by computer? Hang on, caller. It's all done by computer?
It is done by computer, I assume. We just take their numbers to us, and then we try and route it through the reservoirs. Because there's 8 or so reservoirs upstream of us. They have a combined storage capacity of just right around 600,000.
So the Department of Water Resources, they actually figure out how much snowmelt there is going to be in the next month by month. They figure that out by computer. Are they ever wrong?
Well, the only guarantee you have when you make a forecast is that you will be wrong.
Yeah.
But are they far off? No, they have years and years of experience.
They're close to the calculation.
Yeah.
Then. Their own calculation.
They do pretty well. They've got a lot of experience. We have a lot of confidence in what the DWR produces.
Yeah, because I said in my monologue that according to the last snow survey, which we'll get to that in a moment here, which was 42.5 inches, they can take that number, 190% of normal, and figure out how much snow is up there, and then calculate how much, depending on the weather, they calculate how much will melt, because the hotter it is, the more the snow will melt.
Yeah, and the weekend.
That's hard to calculate.
It's coming up this weekend. It's getting warmer. We're expecting inflow to go up dramatically.
Yeah, it's going to be in the 90s all through next week, from what I understand from our forecasters here locally, but they're not always right either. But our friends at the National Weather Service say the same thing. So, caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Okay. Hey, good morning, John. Good morning. I think it's Wayne, is it?
No, Duane.
First name?
Duane.
Okay. Wayne, okay, several questions I have for you. Hopefully you're going to be my water answer man. On the Westlands water, are the farmers happy the way things are going right now? I don't know. As I said, I'm not sure if you're in charge of that or not. That was one question. And the surrounding area in Fresno, in other words, is everyone kind of contented with the amount of water they're getting? That's my first question. Second question is, do they still have to use pump water for now? Is that still going on important, or they shouldn't use as much since we have a lot of water? And if you can answer the third question about the fishies in San Francisco, has that ever been resolved where they send us enough water, or we're sending them not as much water? Let's put it that way. I guess that's what it was at one time. We were sending them too much water. So those are somewhat the three questions. If you could answer, Wayne, appreciate it. Thank you for being there. Have a good day.
All right.
Thank you, John.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, well, the first question, are the farmers happy with the amount of water they are getting, or are they content? I cannot answer for the farmers. I will say that they're getting 100% allocation this year, so they're getting from the federal sources. They're getting as much water as we can possibly give them under contract. There,
East side and west side.
East side and west side. That's the class 1. That's the better contracts on the east side, and then we have class 2, and right now they have as much water as they can take. Matter of fact, we're encouraging people to take water. We'd rather send it down the canals rather than down the river. We'd rather see it go into the groundwater. You have a question?
No, I was just going to say, now you said something, class 1 and class 2. What does that mean now?
Class 1 is the first 800,000 acre feet that comes into the Millerton Reservoir, and that goes out to the contractors. Then after there's class 2, and those people, the idea was that class 1 would get water 100% allocation in every year, or most years, and class 2 would have a less likelihood of getting water.
Who's got the west side or the east side has class 1 or class 2?
These are all east side.
All east side.
Yeah.
What about the west side? What are they
West
getting?
side, they just have a water service contract, and their water comes from the Delta.
Okay, it doesn't come from the feds.
It is the
west side.
feds.
Oh, it is the feds.
Yeah, but it comes from Jones Pumping Plant, Tracy, down by Tracy.
And they have a contract with?
Bureau of Reclamation.
Okay, but they're not getting as much as the east side.
Well, they're getting 100% allocation. The west side's got 100% allocation. They're going to get their full contract amount this year.
Okay, as will the west side.
As
but
will
the
the
west
west
side
side
is not getting as much of the allocation as, say, the east side is. In other words, is what I'm saying, right?
No, they're getting the same. They're getting 100%.
Exactly the same.
Everybody's getting 100% allocation this year.
100%, but is it equal in terms of the amount of water they're getting?
It all depends on their contract.
Okay.
City of Fresno has a contract for 60,000 acre feet of class 1.
And they're getting that.
And they're getting that.
Yeah.
But Fresno Irrigation District, they have a class 2 contract.
Oh,
So
okay.
they can take as much water as they want now. However, they also have really good rights on the Kings River. So they're probably not taking any of our water because they have water available on the Kings River, Fresno ID that is.
Right. Irrigation district.
Irrigation District, yes.
Okay, so that's kind of how it works. So from what you're hearing, you're not hearing anything about what the farmers are doing, if they're happy, unhappy, but because they're all getting their 100%.
I don't know if they're happy or unhappy, but I know that
Okay.
they're getting full allocation. And the second question was about groundwater pumping.
Yeah, they still have to use pump water, ground pumping.
Unlikely this year. Matter of fact,
Fresno gets most of its water from pumping in the ground.
they do, but we've just this past year, City of Fresno completed a new takeout on the Frank Kern Canal so that they can take surface supply to their north side water treatment plant, so they will no longer have to, so they can pump less. In years like this, they can use more surface water and less groundwater.
What about the southeast water plant that's going on, the surface water treatment plant that's going up there? Will they be able to take more surface water once that's completed?
I believe so. I believe that's their plan.
Yeah, but that's not done yet.
No, I don't believe so.
Yeah, but you're talking about a different plant in the north side.
Yes.
Okay.
I believe it might be the southeast. I don't know, but I know that they just completed a takeout on our canal. It was really close in January on whether they were going to get that completed, to get the work completed that they needed to do before we had to start putting water down the canal because we had those big storms.
So they'll
in
be
January.
able to take more surface water, less groundwater,
Yep.
which is good for the ground because you don't deplete the system.
Correct.
Okay, all right. The third question was about the fisheries, I guess, in San Francisco, or sending them water, or they're sending us water. How does that work?
The water, if it's not taken out of the delta by either us or the State Water Project, it goes down out through the delta, and biologists have said that that's better for fish. The high delta outflows is good for fish. It definitely flushes the salts out of the delta. So anyone who takes water out of the delta is going to have fresher water.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, that's the answer from Duane Stroup, their caller. 436-MeTV, option 11. Hope you have some questions to ask our guest today. He's an expert in water, U.S. Bureau of Reclamation, Duane Stroup. He is going to be here until 11 o'clock, and you can call in. We have an open phone line. Back after this in a moment.
When you like Ventura TV Appliance on Facebook, it's nice. But when you love the Samsung big screen we deliver, it's even better. Our website is cool, and it's a good place to start. But you really should touch the merchandise before you buy. Time for that upgrade to an HD 3D web-enabled Samsung TV. Get the best selection, price, and service in town without waiting. Come in to Ventura TV Appliance and touch the merchandise today.
Not sure what you're watching? Want to see what's coming up next? Or just want to browse what's on without the hassle of flipping channels? Your wish has come true. Now you can view schedules for all the digital TV channels available in the Central Valley. Get local weather updates and forecasts, and listen to nationally syndicated Biz Talk Radio, all on KVHF 4.1. Rescan your TV now, then tune in to Digital Channel 4.1 to start enjoying the all-new TV Guide.
Back here with Duane Stroup. He's from the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. I want to roll the videotape on the final measurement. It's called Final Measurement. It's up in the mountains there. They did this a couple of weeks back, and you had the measurement of 42.5 inches. That's 190% of normal. And you just take a look at the background there as that. Are they from the Department of Water Resources? Is that where they're from? Are they the people that do the measurements?
I believe they are Department of Water Resources. They are the ones who do the measurements.
Uh-huh. And if you, I don't know if we're going to go back out to that wide shot, but did you see all the snow in the mountains in the background? It's an enormous amount of snow that they've had this year, the most ever. And even NASA has said, just from the photos that they have taken, it's the most snow that they've seen in the Sierra Nevada mountains in decades, maybe in the history of California.
North of the Delta, it is the wettest water year on record so far, as measured by precipitation. The old record was in 82-83, and they've beat it this year. They have more snow packed, more snow, more moisture than they've ever had since we've been measuring it. You know, we can't say, you know, in the year 1422 what happened, but since we've started measuring. And then down here, we'll see where we end up this year. We're in the top 3 south of the Delta in snowpack.
Yeah, and I want to roll a videotape called Snowfall, and I want to run this out to the end. Are we running this to the bitter end on all these videos here? Are we running them to the end? Okay, run this one to the end too, Snowfall. We showed this one in the monologue, and it's worth seeing again because this was like a month ago up in the Sierra Nevada mountains. Now, we were talking about May, so this was in April. Sometime in March or April, I think. And look at the dig out here. Cars are covered in snow. They're having to dig out. Many of the homes were covered in snow. Look at this snowfall. Many people probably don't realize that the majority of our water comes from the snowfall. Duane?
That is. The snow is our #1 reservoir.
It's not the rainwater, it's
not
the
the
snow.
Rain we have to basically pass because we need the space in our reservoirs. Just like right now, we're expecting to fill our reservoirs, but we're keeping them around our reservoir, Millerton, around 340,000 acre feet, so that we have 180,000 acre feet to attenuate any flows so that we can not have the deep and sustained flooding that's downstream. We want to avoid flooding if we can at all.
Yeah.
But so what we like to see is snowpack, snow coming down, staying cool. We like to see a sustained, not a really fast warm up, so that the snow acts as a reservoir, and as it time releases the water, then we can put it to beneficial use down our canals.
Will a lot of this snow just simply not melt, even in the summer?
It'll melt. Some of it up in the higher elevations won't melt, but most of it will melt, yes.
It will. Got an email question here. Increased storage, yes. Is the recharge for the groundwater program expanding?
Is groundwater recharge expanding? Yes, it is. Bureau of Reclamation San Joaquin River Restoration Program has provided seed money for, I believe, 3 new water banks on the Frank Kern Canal. We have program Water Smart grants where we are providing money. We provide money, seed money, for anyone who wants to do a groundwater bank. They have to apply. It's competitive, so they have to put a request for proposal, and then there's criteria that we have that everything's based off, and we give money for that. So groundwater recharge on the Frank Kern Canal is increasing. It is increasing.
You know, it's amazing because as a kid, I remember it snowing like this every year. It never failed. But now it seems like it's maybe every other year or every 4 years, and you just got to wonder why. Maybe my memory doesn't serve me that correctly, but or that well. But it just doesn't seem like when you were younger, it just snowed like that every year.
It was wetter, possibly, when we were younger. However, since 2000, it's been a pretty dry period in California. Since 2000, say 17 years, probably only 5 or 6 of those years have been wet or above normal years.
Do we know why?
No, I don't know why.
Does anybody have a theory as to why? No?
Sure, people do have theories. A lot of people will say it's global warming.
Right.
Personally, I've looked at like tree ring data, and what I can see is that California has experienced periods like this in the past. And it just seems to be part of how California water comes down. You know, sometimes it comes down several wet years in a row, and you can have a really wet period, and then you can have times like the last 17 years, which have been fairly dry.
Yeah, it just seems like, you know, in the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, and part of the 90s, it just seemed like there was so much snow up there all the time that we never, and I know there have been drought years, and don't ask me what years because I don't know, but there have been some drought years in between, but nothing like we've seen the last 17, 18, 19 years or so.
That's my take on it too, is that it's just been a very dry period since 2000. And as you know, the last 4 or 5 years have been record-settingly dry. You know, the driest, every year, the driest year on record, the driest 2 years on record, the driest 3 years on record, the driest 4 years on record.
Yeah.
You know, things that you really just don't like hearing anymore.
Yeah, you really don't. And all this water, I mean, it's, people say it's a problem. It is too much water. It certainly can be a problem. It is a problem. We don't know what's going to happen. Let's roll a videotape. It's called Drone Shot. Let's take the drone shot. And I believe this is a Millerton lake. And so, I said to you before the show, well, I guess there's going to be a lot of runoff. There's a winter day looking at Millerton. And you said, well, maybe not. Maybe it won't be fast and furious, as fast as we think it will be. Why is that? There's so much snow up there. It's got to go somewhere.
Well, it all depends on how fast it gets warm, hot. Fresno, when it gets up to 100 degrees here, it's up above 80, up in the higher country. But so far, we've had 2.4 million acre-feet of inflow into Millerton Reservoir. And
Since when?
Since the October 1st of last year.
2.4 million acre-feet of water.
Correct.
Wow, think of all the water we could have saved had we built
Temperance Flat.
Yeah, Temperance Flat or another reservoir somewhere, or storage somewhere, someplace to store this thing.
Would have really helped us with our controlling the river.
It really would have.
Would have. But, 2.4 is a lot. So we're expecting, a little over 3.5 million, maybe as much as 4 million acre-feet this year. So a lot of it's already come down. And because it's been warm and stuff, a lot of the snow below 8,000 acre-feet has already melted or started to come off. So that upper level snow up above 8,000 is not always as affected as much by the heat. And so that's why we're trying to just sort of match inflows with outflows right now and keep around 340,000 acre-feet of storage, because we're not quite sure if it's going to come off really fast and furious. Plus, we have Southern Cal Edison and PG&E, Pacific Gas and Electric, both have reservoirs upstream of us. They have about 640,000 acre-feet of storage up there. But what there's about 69% full, so they have about 180,000 acre feet. So between them and us, we have about 360,000 acre feet of storage capacity. So we feel confident that we can handle what's going to come in. We're still going to have to release water down the river. However, we don't feel that we're going to get into a really, a 97 type situation where we had to increase flows in the river above 11,000 CFS.
Yeah, you're not into that right now. You're about 3,000 to 4,000. This is a great shot of Millerton Lake. Just not too long ago, this place is filled up with water. That water's got to go somewhere because the snow is going to melt from the mountains and go downstream at some point. And so the calculation has to be made by the Department of Water Resources, and then obviously the feds. And you're part of the feds. You're part of the federal government, U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. They run. U.S. Bureau of Reclamation runs and operates Millerton.
We run and operate Millerton Reservoir. We own San Luis Reservoir, but the Department of Water Resources runs it for us. It's a joint use facility, the only joint use facility in the United States where the federal government partnered with a local or state entity and built a reservoir.
Yeah, so the state runs San Luis, but the feds own it.
That is correct.
Yeah, in Oroville Dam, I'm going to get into that in just a bit here because there's some problems up there even during the summer months. Talking about that spillway, the state owns and actually built Oroville Dam, right?
That is correct.
Yeah, it's not the feds.
It's not us.
And the state, way back in the 50s and 60s, they were not in the dam building business. They didn't know exactly how it was done.
No, the State Water Project is their first real foray into dam building. The Central Valley Project, which is the federal project, was originally designed and was going to be built by the state. But during the Depression, they couldn't come up with the money, so they went. They basically gave everything, their water rights, their plans, and everything to the Bureau of Reclamation, and then we built the Central Valley Project. And then in the '60s, they built the State Water Project. And
what's the difference between the two, the feds' State Water Project and the State Water Project?
It's the laws that are run.
Is it allocation? Is it the way it operates? What is it?
It's the authorizations. We're authorized by the federal government, by Congress. Congress has authorized us to do certain things, and we have certain ways of doing contracts to deliver water and everything. So we have to operate according to the authorizations given to us by Congress.
Department of Interior, right?
Department of Interior.
Yeah.
And then the state has their own laws that they have to operate under, which are, state water law, which we also have to comply with. But as far as their contracting and everything, it's just they have to operate under the state laws.
But do they operate to a certain extent under federal law too?
Only when it comes to the Endangered Species Act. So they have to comply with the Endangered Species Act because though their dams are state dams, they have to be licensed through the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. All dams have to be licensed through them. So they need federal licensing. And to get that, they have to comply with the Endangered Species Act.
Okay, somebody that's living downstream, and I got to go to break, somebody living downstream from Millerton along the San Joaquin River, will there be any concerns this spring, this summer?
No.
Water releases?
I do not believe so.
So don't have to worry about flooding?
No. Mother Nature can surprise us. It could go to 110 degrees and the runoff could decide it's all going to come down in a 5-day period.
And then we're in trouble.
Then we're in trouble. But we don't believe so. We believe that we have it under control. We believe we have the space to store the water. And, in releases from the reservoir will have to increase, but they're not going to go over.
Gradually, but you're talking about gradual increases.
Well, they might go up more fast than that, but they won't go above what we saw earlier this year. So maybe around 8,000 CFS.
Yeah, maybe around 8,000, and still that's a pretty heavy load downstream.
That's a pretty heavy load. There's going to be a lot of when the Kings and the Kauai and the Kern and the Tuolumne and Stanislaus and the Merced and San Joaquin all get together down at Vernalis. That's where it's going to be deep.
Yeah, it really is. And so what you want is a gradual warm up, not a warm up that happens within a week and it gets to be 105, 110 degrees, and then it all comes down at one time. And then that's when you got to make that crucial calculation. That's
when we'll have to coordinate with the Corps of Engineers, the state reclamation districts, which are the flood control districts, and try and move the water downstream. And
We're lucky
limit the
it's-
damage as much as we can.
We're lucky it's not going to hit that next week. Let's take a call here before we go to break. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air with our guest today, Duane Stroup, U.S. Bureau of Reclamation.
Yes, Duane, I am curious to know. I recently on a trip to L.A., I stopped on top of the Grapevine at the visitor center up there, and I noticed by looking at their maps and layout of the water projects for the Central Valley and Los Angeles that at any given point on that deal for the water to get from the Delta down to L.A., it is pumped over 2,200 feet in elevation. Being an electrician, I know what kind of power it takes to generate enough energy to lift with the head pressure water that kind of elevation. And I'm kind of wondering what it would cost per gallon to pump that water over the mountain, and who pays for it, whether it's the L.A. ratepayers or everybody in the United States, or everybody in the state of California.
Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Go ahead, Duane.
I don't know exactly what the cost is. It's expensive. It's
pump it over the.
Pump it over there. It was the biggest. One of the biggest pumping plants in the world when it was built, and it's a state water project, so it's not federal.
It is. Okay.
Who pays for it? My understanding is the ratepayers in San Diego, Los Angeles, the greater metropolitan areas down there. Whoever receives state water project water that south of there, they're the ones who pay for it.
Yeah.
Is my understanding.
Yeah. Hey, we'll get into some other topics here. Why are we having? I mean, in this day and age, 2017, after all these years, we have a state water project, we have a federal water project in the state of California. Why isn't there enough water to go around for everyone? I mean, this year is such a wet year. Nobody should have any complaints about water, but yet there's still the fight over water, over who has the water rights to this parcel and where water ought to be shipped to, and where we should be sending, if we ought to be sending water to Los Angeles. Why are we having these water wars? 436-ME-TV, option 11. We're back with your phone calls in just a moment.
When you're looking for Whirlpool innovation and quality, who has the answers, the selection, the price? Ventura TV Appliance. With billions in nationwide appliance buying power, more than Home Depot and Best Buy combined, we'll help you save. Our low prices on Energy Star qualified Whirlpool appliances save you energy and money, and pay no interest on select models when paid in full within 12 months. Ventura TV Appliance, serving you since 1951.
The Justice Network is here. If you haven't tuned in, you're missing a great lineup of gripping stories of real crime, plus an unprecedented effort by viewers like you to play an active role in making your community safer. You can help support law enforcement by providing information that may lead to the apprehension of dangerous criminals or find a missing child. Great shows and your chance to fight crime, only on the Justice Network.
I want to quickly talk about a couple of things here, and that is the Oroville Dam. They're shutting down the damaged spillway to try to fill that gap. The giant crater that was created during the storm, they had to evacuate to 180,000, almost 200,000 people out of Oroville. They thought that dam could, obviously breach, and then it cause a major flood down in the streets of Oroville. Didn't happen, fortunately. This dam, from what I've read, was originally built by Pat Brown, Jerry Brown's father, back in the 50s and 60s, built by the state of California. The objective was to save that water, collect that water, highest dam ever, biggest dam ever anywhere, but to transfer that water from Northern California all the way down to Southern California. Was that the objective?
That was the objective. It was because the population. Los Angeles was growing, and they'd taken all the water from the Owens Valley. They needed more water for the population they had, and this was a way to get it to them. And it was to build a really large state water project. Like I said, the largest at the time reservoir in the world, highest reservoir dam in the world, and then move that water down through the Delta and south to Los Angeles and San Diego. So instead of like us, we focus on agriculture. The Bureau of Reclamation, most of what we do is provide water for agriculture and then municipal and industrial use. The State Water Project focuses on municipal and industrial use and then has some water for agriculture.
Why couldn't something have been built closer to Los Angeles?
Because all the rainfall in California falls north of the Delta. The further north you go, the more rainfall you get.
But there is snow in the mountains, obviously, through the grapevine.
Right, but it's just the amount of snow where the water falls is north of the Delta. So you want to move the water from where it falls to where it's needed. It's needed south in Southern California, and it falls in Northern California.
Are they getting their allocation thanks to Oroville Dam?
The state, I'm not sure if they're going to get as much water this year as, I don't know if they're going to get, I'm not sure they're going to get 100% allocation because of Oroville Dam, because they've had to lower the dam and they don't have as much water.
They're going to have to lower the dam to fix the spillway.
No, they've lowered it now. It's down. It's
lowered now.
Yeah, it's down 1 million acre feet.
Because they've had, and so where did that water go?
They released it to the Delta.
Okay, so it's just coming down.
Yeah, they just released it to pull the reservoir down to make a hole because I assume that their whole goal is to not have to use that spillway again this year.
Yeah, they don't want to have to use it, and the construction or reconstruction of that spillway is going to go well into 2018.
That's right. It's going to go through next runoff season. So if they have to release water next year, they're probably going to have to figure out what they're going to do.
Was Pat Brown at the time, the governor of California back then, was he a visionary, or did he really bite off more than he could chew?
My opinion, and it's just my opinion, I think he's a visionary. I think that California would not have the infrastructure to support the population it has now if he wouldn't have built the project.
Is that right?
That's what I believe.
We would not be able to support the amount of people that we have in the state of California now without Oroville Dam?
That is my opinion.
Right, and so he was a visionary in your opinion, and so why are these water wars still going on with the west side, the east side? I know there's an issue. Governor Jerry Brown, his son, hang on, caller, get to you in a moment, wants to build that big pipeline down from Northern California down through the Central Valley, and will that ever happen?
I don't know if it'll ever happen. State of California is really pushing for tunnels under the Delta so that they can get water from Northern California through the Delta.
Is that just talk, or do you think it's reality?
Oh, they really want to do that.
Whether it'll happen, $1 billion, right?
It's going to cost like $17 billion.
$17 billion?
It's going to be expensive, very expensive.
Yeah.
But in constant dollars, it's no more expensive than when the State Water Project was built or when the Central Valley Project was built. These big projects take a lot of money.
Why are there so many water wars still in 2017?
I don't know. We're in the Western United States. We always fight about water.
In the East, they have too much water, more than they know what to do with. Here in the West, it's always a water fight.
It's always a water fight because we always have more uses than we have water.
Yeah, and if we built more storage, we wouldn't have all these water fights, or would we have more?
I don't know. My view is that we've built storage in the past. We still have water fights. So,
so Temperance Flat, we'd still have a water fight, even if we built Temperance Flat.
My opinion, yes, but that's just because we fight about water.
Yeah, we fight. Okay, no, I have the right to that. No, I do. So that you'd have the constant battle over Temperance Flat. Who has the right to that water?
Potentially.
Yeah. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
My question was going to be about transferring the water from Oroville all the way to the LA basin, but you've already answered it. My question was going to be, is there an existing conduit? But no, there's a proposed conduit, or why not just leave it on the surface? Why do they have to bury a pipeline? That makes it so much more expensive. Is it an issue of environmental impact? And how likely is that to happen? Wouldn't it make more sense to build something like Temperance Flat, which is hundreds of miles closer to the LA basin, than Oroville, which is way in Northern California?
As far as making sense, the water's in Northern California, and that's why the storage is up there. So you store the water where it occurs, and then you move it to where it's needed. the California aqueduct would still be used if they built the tunnels underneath the delta. And you're correct. The caller's correct. It's environmental reasons, it's property rights reasons as to why they're looking at tunnels to move it under the delta.
Yeah.
If you do anything else, you end up disrupting the environment and disrupting a lot of people's property down in the delta.
So better to go underground, build the tunnels, move the water where you want to move it. There are going to be lawsuits over this now. You know that. And,
yes.
And there's always a fight. There's always a battle as to whether or not it should be built, maybe not built. There's going to be the same,
not under my property.
Or not under my property. California is earthquake zone. If there's a big earthquake, those tunnels are going to go. There's going to be a big crack in the pipeline. The water's going to spread everywhere. It's not going to be good. So that's going to be an issue, I'm sure.
I'm sure it is. And so that all gets to the question of, will it be built? You've asked me that. The callers asked me that. I don't know because of just what you said.
How close to the San Andreas Fault will that pipeline be?
Well, not really. Not close at all.
Not too close. But it could affect those pipelines if there's a major earthquake, no question about it. And like you said before, the reason you're transferring that water all the way from the north part of the state down to the south is because that's where all the water happens. It's where all the snow and the rain happens in the winter. So you want to store it there, then obviously distribute that water as one sees fit.
That is correct. And actually the tunnels will actually be more resistant to earthquake because
really?
Excuse me. Right now the water moves through the delta, and you have a lot of levees down there that were not designed. They weren't engineered. They were just
to handle a quake.
Yeah. So those levees very possibly would fail in an earthquake, and the tunnels would actually be more resistant to an earthquake.
Here is an email question: would Edison or PG&E be the operating? Would they be operating Temperance Flat with the generators?
Right now, I believe the deal is if they build Temperance Flat, they're going to take out the Kirchhoff power plant. So they're negotiating a deal with PG&E to have them potentially operate any power that would be produced off of Temperance Flat.
And another email question: are we any closer to seeing Temperance Flat built?
Hard one to answer. We're closer in that we've provided something to OMB for the Congress to consider, but
we've got the money. So
we've asked for that back so that we as a federal agency and local people can look at it and maybe come up with a use of Temperance Flat that's more beneficial to people.
All right, let's take a look at San Luis Reservoir. Roll the videotape. San Luis Reservoir as of April the 1st, my friends. You may or may not have seen this before. Talk about how much, now this is right after the rain. This is beautiful sight. San Luis, 90% full. You already talked about the capacity, more than 2 million. So why is San Luis, how does it differ from Millerton? The operating system is completely different. The functions are different. The whole purpose of San Luis, which was dedicated, by the way, by John F. Kennedy back in 1962 at the groundbreaking, phenomenal site here. What's the difference between the two, Millerton and San Luis?
San Luis, you can't, I'm trying to think. The big demand for water from agriculture is in the summer when it's really hot. We can't build pumps big enough to meet that demand. We'd have to way overbuild. So what we do is we build San Luis. So when we have spare capacity in the winter, we move water into San Luis. Then during peak water demands, we use San Luis to meet some of those demands. San Luis is what's called off-stream storage. So there's not a major river running through it. We just picked a good location and we built a dam there to hold 2 million acre feet of water.
And what's it used for again?
Irrigation. And for so right now it's full. It's over 2 million acre feet. It's about 30,000 acre feet from full. So Los Angeles, a lot of times they'll take a lot of their water down in the fall after the peak use period.
Does Los Angeles pull water out of San Luis?
Yes, it does.
It does?
Yes. So
in addition to all that water that comes down from Oroville?
The water that comes down from Oroville is pumped out of the delta, and then it is either used directly by agriculture or municipal and industrial use, and that's the State Water Project and the
Okay.
Central Valley Project, both
Okay.
pump, and then they pump water into San Luis if they have extra water.
Oh, and then LA draws from San Luis. Now, in a major emergency, could Fresno or the Central Valley pull water out of San Luis and use it?
West Side farmers could, but Fresno, no.
Fresno, no.
Fresno, we'd have to put pumps in to be able to pump the water from locations and
That would
up
be
the
a major
front.
emergency, though.
Yeah, but
I mean,
as it is configured now, no, they could not.
Okay. Run one more videotape here, and it would be before and after the rain. Let's roll that videotape before and after the rain. This is, again, San Luis. This is before the rain, and then after the rain. You can see San Luis was so far down at the beginning of the season, the rainy season, that everyone was worried this thing was going to, talk about draining the swamp. They were talking about draining San Luis. I mean, and nature was draining San Luis because there was no rain the last 4 years. Look at this. And then the rains came and saved the day. But another beautiful shot. And so if Fresno had to, they could draw out of San Luis if they built pumps. LA does draw out of San Luis because there are pumps to pump it down there, right?
That is correct. San Luis Reservoir flows into the California Aqueduct, San Luis Canal, and that flows south to LA. And the big pumps that the caller was talking about takes the water south to LA and San Diego.
So it's not necessarily snowfall that melts into there. We're pumping water into San Luis.
It's all pumped out of the delta
and into there.
And into there.
Okay, and it's used for fishing. Obviously, a lot of stripers there.
Some state records.
Yeah, some state records on stripers being caught there at San Luis, much bigger than out at Millerton, no question about it. So the functions of the two operating systems are completely different, San Luis and Friant. There's no question, and they were built for, different reasons.
Yes, one Friant is to store water and to divert water to the Friant Creek Canal and the Madera Canal. San Luis is to store water, but it's stored water that's pumped out of the delta, whereas we don't have to do anything. Water just flows into Millerton.
Advice for people that are going to go kayaking next week, let's say, down the San Joaquin River. They're not going to listen to you. They're going to kayak. They're going to take their boats out. They might even jump in the river, canal, a stream. Your advice is what? Wear a life jacket?
Wear protective equipment. Do not go alone. Be safe. Don't take any risks.
Don't be stupid.
Yeah.
Don't do any, and certainly don't drink and do anything stupid. Because we've already seen, I think, at least one major death here at one of the canals. Even the canals here in the city are running fast and cold.
Everything's full. There's so much water available this year.
Yeah. Duane, you're a friend of this program. Thanks for coming in. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks for having me.
All right. You got a ways to catch up with Dennis Hart, though.
I do.
All right. Okay. All right. Duane Stroup, thank you. Have a great weekend. Good to see you. Come back again.
Thank you.
All right. Duane Stroup, the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation. Be careful if you're out there this weekend. It's going to heat up into the 90s all the way through next week. So the heat is on. The summer is on. See you back here Monday with Mike Briggs. Have a great and safe weekend, everybody.
If you have a need to promote your business or event, please consider MeTV Fresno for your next campaign. MeTV reaches over 100,000 of your potential customers in the Fresno area every single week. Plus, you can rest assured that your commercial is running in the greatest family-friendly programs of all time. MeTV Fresno delivers a strong, loyal audience ready to buy, and your campaign will cost a fraction of what you're paying for your advertising now. Call me today to find out how affordable MeTV is at 905-1925.
And away we go.
Here's the place that makes you smile. Stick around and stay a while. We're the home of great TV. That's memorable. That's me.
Follow me, sir.
Call them classics, call them the best. Call them favorites, be our guest. Every day there's more to come. Watch and see, there's only one. Me TV.
All you have to do is watch me.
Are you kidding me?
Follow me.
That's memorable. That's me.
That's me.
Me TV.
Tune in to Heartland for the best in true country music. Relive vintage specials, one-of-a-kind concerts, and country music's earliest videos. Heartland is the heart of country.